what we had in the mind, we had already submitted in the proposal, and we had submitted proposal to Madanji that we all partners are eager to make something concrete, and that whatever our mind had, we had already submitted in the proposal. And I think I am lucky, Mr. Vakendra is lucky on the basis of that proposal, this initiative was taken. And ये तो जानते ही हैं कि थोड़ी सी छोटे से पौधे तो कहीं दब जाते हैं, बरगद के पेड़ को सब देखते हैं, तो वो तो जाहिर सी बात है कि आज अगर मान लीजिए कि जब एसडीजी की बात होगी, इतने बड़े बड़े रिपोर्ट बनेंगे, डॉक्टर निंद्या नंदा जी द एक्सपर्ट ऑफ दैट फील्ड, तो वो तो बरगद के पेड़ हैं, उनको तो सब देखेगा, लेकिन हम लोगों की जो छोटी सी कॉन्सेप्ट है उसको कोई नहीं देख पाएगा, तो ये तो मैं समझ सकता हूँ.
It's good now with nice lesson plans and how to execute and all come. The long run, it's very, very good. You know, it's very nice. You know, especially you know each area where you really discuss.
बरगद की जो पेड़ होती है ना
जी,
उसकी फ्रूट्स बहुत ही छोटा होता है और ह्यूमन कंजम्पशन नहीं होता है.
नहीं, एक उसकी विशेषता है सर, जितना ऊपर दिखता है उससे ज्यादा उसकी जड़ नीचे होती है, इसलिए तो यू आर मतलब आपकी जो ग्रेविटी है वो बिल्कुल अलग है, हम लोगों की झलक पड़ती है,
लेकिन उसकी छाया जो होती है
सर
वो बहुत ही मीठा होते हैं. किसी पेड़
That's right. It's so good.
और it gives shelter to many other animals, birds and many other animals.
So many fauna. Yes sir. Totally agree with.
लेकिन उसकी फ्रूट्स के कोई काम नहीं आता है
सर, हर चीजें फ्रूट्स के लिए है ही नहीं.
हाँ वही है,
हर चीजें की अपनी अपनी विशेषताएं होती है, वो इतने लोगों को इतने जीवंत कर देते हैं कि वो अपने आप वो फ्रूट से ज्यादा वो फलदायी दिखता है सर.
हाँ हाँ.
तो चेन्नई में तो वीना और कोकोनट ट्री ज्यादा नीचे करेगा तो ऊपर नारियल गिरेगा. पर नारियल पानी अच्छा रहता है.
सुब्रत दादा, गुड मॉर्निंग.
हाय सुब्रता.
दादा आप अपने आप को अनम्यूट कर लीजिए, आपकी सुंदर वॉइस, मिठास भरे हुए अंदाज सुनने को मिलेगा. बाद में तो ग्रुप कैप्टन रोक देंगे कि सबको आपको म्यूट कर लेना है और सेशन चलेगा. अभी हम लोगों के लिए फोरम है जहां हम लोग अच्छे से बातचीत कर सकते हैं.
एमएमए इवेंट में सब म्यूट हो जाता है, अपना बोल गया था. No, there are so many people are logging in. No?
Right, sir. लोकेश भाई दिख रहे हैं. लोकेश भाई गुड मॉर्निंग.
Hey, पंकज रिमीट बन रहा है ना.
Good morning, sir.
Good.
Hi, लोकेश.
सुंदर जी थोड़ा स्क्रीन पर देखते, बिकॉज ही इज द बैकबोन. हमेशा वो हम लोगों को गाइड करते, फोन करते कि मीटिंग शुरू होने वाली है, तो मैं आज उनको रिक्वेस्ट किया कि आप ही एक बार मीटिंग के शुरुआत में आप अपना सुंदर सा फेस जरूर दिखाएं ताकि हम लोग आपका स्माइली फेस देख सकें.
In fact, Uday ji, we are doing one event on 23rd, all about corporate social responsibility. How it really serve the purpose. Very nice event. I'll give you a link. Then what is the performance in the state of Tamil Nadu? How is promoting social entrepreneurship and achieving the objective? Has it really done its objective? We have got some case studies. Who have done spent what? How we are releasing a report on CSR and its implementation in the state of Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
Because when we have the advocacy, all that, we need a CSR support, So I suggest we all must watch this program. You'll understand how to really garner the CSR funding, actually. How to get hold of that.
All CSR funds goes to government only, sir. Nobody else.
Pankaj Madanji,
Hi, Pankaj.
Good morning, Pankaj.
Hi, sorry, I was sort of logging in a different way, and that took a while. Good morning, everybody. Really
Good morning.
wonderful to see you all.
Good morning.
Yes.
I think almost all. Most of them in.
Good morning. Good morning.
हमें ऐसा लगता है केबिन में बैठ के और बस फ्लाइट को पंकज जी उड़ा के जस्ट अभी लैंड ही किए हैं. गुड मॉर्निंग.
ये रनवे है ये.
Tandon has been spoken to, is coming. In the meanwhile, we'll start. Pankaj is coming.
Yes, go for it.
Good morning, Pankaj.
Morning, Nitya ji. Good morning. Today, Nitya is in the firing line.
Good morning, Mr. Pankaj. Good morning.
Very good morning.
morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start. Pankaj.
Pankaj.
Morning.
I think some of the people will be joining us. We will wait for them. They can, by the time we finish the formality, they will be in.
Yeah.
Very, very good morning to each one of you. For all the partners who are taken time to join this morning, because this meeting today is very, very important milestone in our JSDP right? Because we are going to discuss some important initiatives what we have been done. The paper prepared by Dr. Nityananda has already been shared with you. And we also got the program scheduled for Ahmedabad. So this is what we are going to be discussing today. And now I'll request Pankaj to set the context opening remarks. Thereafter, we move on with the agendas.
Okay, so hi, good morning, everybody. And yeah, glad to be back together. And since we have Dr. Nityananda with us, let's utilize his time to the fullest before we move on to the JSDP topics. And so I would say that let's take a brief round with everybody with respect to the manual draft that was sent by Dr. Nityananda. Yeah. So Grupi, I would ask you to conduct this round, please.
Okay. Now we have already forwarded the complete report. I'm quite sure you're busy, but you would have had an opportunity to go through the report to some extent. And to start with, maybe I'll start. Each one of you give your thoughts. It need not be a very comprehensive input because I know it can't be done in one sitting. Anyway, you're going to be sitting together for 4 days to do that. Whatever little what you got, where you think your inputs are very required, relevant to your particular thing, so that we can move forward. So maybe I'll start with mine. Actually, I have gone through little extent so that others can know.
The privilege of the chairperson.
Report, and what I was very impressed with is how it's the whole idea of why this report is done is very clearly defined. Once we read that, awareness, advocacy, then how it has to be done for in terms of training programs and maintenance of track record. So the concept of an objective is so clear. This is basically for us to really take forward this initiative of sustainable development goal, and how we do that. As far as the MMA is concerned, while I went through all other areas of sustainable development goal, which has been covered in detail by Dr. Nityananda, our focus and interest is more on education. So I focused on education to understand how we can really do this in terms of what has been defined and given by Dr. Nityananda. When we saw the education, he has clearly given phenomenal data, statewide enrollment data. And to some extent, we are also working on these lines under our CSR initiative and with a large number of underprivileged and poor children, and also underprivileged poor children, not only in the colleges. Some of the areas what you have done is very, very good, especially right to education, and which is really giving. And I know in Chennai, the right to education, that RTI quota, which is reserved for each of the schools, some of the best, right, there's a slum right in front of our office, not slum, but little middle class income people. Almost they are the people who are studying in the best of the schools in Chennai. So people are taking the opportunity to go forward and do something. But I know how many of you have seen the report also, like people who are going to the higher education after studying from government school, but the dropout has been very, very high in terms of IIT, Madras or other places. The dropout is as high as almost in some cases 72% in some areas, in some cases 38%. So there is also an issue while we focus on them and take them higher level. I also know there is a policy introduced by the government of Tamil Nadu that 7.5% of the seats will be reserved for the students studying in government schools. While this is very, very good. So what will happen now? We have to improve the quality of education in all the institutions. Then only students, when go for higher education, will be able to sustain. Now, when I went to education, all this is very good where we can implement, where you can do that. Some of the area where Nityananda, I thought maybe you would have done it also, but maybe I missed it out. We have to integrate all our education policy with a new education policy. The government has passed a parliamentary resolution on new education policy, which gives certain guidelines in terms of what can be done, what cannot be done. So our SDG, what we are going to be implementing, while it should be in sync with what is our objective in terms of our goal, it has to be in sync with the new education policy. If you notice it, that all dimensions are different now. Now, the new education policy also being relooked again in the concept of pandemic. They're trying to review it. The concept of pandemic, now we really understood when we have to switch over from normal education to online education, how difficult it is and how backward we are. Almost 70% of our education is still to get connected with net connectivity. People studying, sitting on the top of the tree and buildings and all that. Now, when we do a comprehensive study under the thing, when we educate, you must also be able to tell the people in terms of a curriculum, In terms of alternatives, how will you do? How will you do online education? How will you do online education? Certain guidelines which has to be given in online education. You know, at the end of the day, I know that certain people have gone to trouble in online education. How will you put the thing in place in terms of the new education policy in terms of each other? This is one broad line. Otherwise, I think it's quite nice, but it requires a phenomenal amount of little bit of things so that when it's implemented, it's easy to implement at grassroots level. And I'm very impressed with the way you put together the data and put together how the advocacy, how to reach out to the people. And if you can integrate the new education policy and also say that how we have to really attract children to come back to the school, how we are going to do the pandemic time, the physical mode of arriving at school, what should be the solution, how the NGO should also play a role during difficult situations like pandemic. It can happen again in future. How are you going to do this? This is all some of the thoughts which came to my mind, initial thoughts. I'm quite sure we'll study and come well prepared during the JSDP meet so that we can study the entire thing and put together. So now I'll request, we'll go maybe next, who would like to offer any volunteer. Otherwise, we'll go ask for the screen, what is there in front of me. Next in the screen is Shilpa. Would you like to share your thoughts on this? Pankaj,
Yes,
is it okay to go one by one?
Yes.
Good morning, Pankaj ji, Dr. Nityanand ji, Vijay ji, and all respected directors. Good morning once again. I must tell that I have not gone in detail of your report, but just went through because I got my second vaccine 2 days back and was little low on energy. That's why I could not go through the entire report. Now I am feeling better. And for me, especially the chapter 7, which is very encouraging, where you talk about the NGO actions, what's and hows. So here we actually see the action-oriented thing within the entire report. As IIYW, we are especially interested in 2 things that will be SDG on the health and SDG on water and sanitation. So I'll be going through in detail of all these things, but of course, congratulations to Dr. Nitya and your entire team for bringing in such a huge data information compiled in a very proper manner with intellectual inputs from your own side. And it's a really action-oriented report. I am sure with stakeholder consultations, we can have the pre-testing of such kind of a report. So as IIYW, we'll be very much interested in go ahead with the stakeholders consultations. Once we are through, once our own team is ready with the options for government, options for CSOs. So I really see the 3 levels of engagements of the civil society, of the NGOs and the government. So it's a very nice compilation which has been done, and I am sure that entire JSDP network is going to get a huge benefit of your intellect and every director who's putting in lot of inputs in each of the SDGs we have selected. So I'm really thankful to JSDP network that IIYW has been a part of it. We are learning through all of you, and it's really, really very comprehensive and helpful. And I'm sure in turn, government will benefit through your reports. So thank you, Madan ji, for bringing in this SDG component in the JSDP, because NGO teams will get the benefit now. Because we always talked about that it should not remain at the director's level and it should percolate down to the teams who are really working at the grassroots, maybe in the vernacular language, very simplistic in the language of the community. And this report is really going to percolate down to that level. And I'm sure that it will benefit the communities, the remote villages where we all are working. So thank you, Dr. Nityanand ji, for bringing in that, that factor which will go to the grassroots. And that's it. And at IIYW, we are all safe and fine and expect the same for all of you. And I hope all are vaccinated with 2 doses and be safe and healthy. Thank you.
One question. Thank you, Shilpaji. That was a very, very good perspective from an organization and a person who works at the grassroots. Will it be possible for you to have this a test stakeholder consultation before the JSDP proper? I know there is hardly a month left, month and a half.
Yeah.
The idea is that you bring in. The idea is that you already bring in the inputs there.
I think, yes, if we decide the level, whether we want to include the secretariat would be difficult. But if we talk about the local government and the NGOs, then I think if one resource person would be there, should be possible for IIYW. Maybe like the first week of September would be fine. Otherwise, we are quite engaged with 2 different projects. And not very sure.
Okay, that's understandable. That's understandable. Okay. We'll come back to this topic later. Okay. Over to you, Groupie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shilpaji. Great insights. And now I'll request Uday Shankarji. Please share your insights on the report, sir. Udayji.
Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity. Good morning to respected all. Yeah, I had the opportunity to go through the entire report because Vishwa Kendra is so keen in sustainable development goals, and we have organized already more than 20 workshops and seminars on that. So it was very curious for all of us. And it was very comprehensive, and I must congratulate Dr. Nityananda that it is more than our expectation. I had the hesitation that any report can be either for the grassroots level workers or the volunteers, or it can be a policy level or advocacy level. But somehow we all people had shared our views that this report must be like a middle level, so that we can use at grassroots level, as well as if there will be any opportunity, we can advocate at policy level as well, so that there can be some changes. Just like, as for example, in education, there is a clear-cut provision in new education policy that inclusion of school skills and entrepreneurship in formal education system. So how can we adopt this? How can we move through that? So these things are little bit extension is required in that report. As per my perception, already you have touched all these things, but how it can be possible to implement in all the levels, this is my submission. In the, as concerned to the health sector, the water, sanitation and hygiene, just Shilpa Mirasi has shared just before me, that it is very important aspect, particularly in the school, how we can focus. Like just Simran had earlier shared that the school, she has organized so many programs with schools. Vishwa Kendra is also focusing on that through different partner NGOs, almost 300 NGOs we have discussed with them. And we have very network partner on SARC basis, that is the FANSA, Fresh Water Action Network. And we are organizing various programs on water, sanitation and hygiene. You have touched very nicely, but as concerned to that, we are looking forward to implement that part also. Climate action is very core area, which is the very challenging. Now we can observe that what is the climate change. Earlier we were in the words, we were verbal interaction, that is discussions that climate change is going on. But now people can visualize, can observe what climate change has been impacted to the people. So you have nicely on that aspect. So this was the submission from our side. One thing we can share, Madanji, that we are very thankful to you that you had accepted, though it is initiated way back. We are not fortunate that we met in 2020 in JSDP. But before that, there was a very quiet, very loud observation that how all the JSDP network partners can come together to organize something, to do something, so that this cannot be only a JSDP meet only in a year. It can be a regular activity. Now we are on the same track that some organization can do some workshops, some can do some research work, some can do some small workshop or seminars or some training program. So after this SDG, we are very hopeful, not only hopeful, but quite sure this JSDP network can be utilized as a vibrant group, as a group who are eager to work together, who can learn together, who can share experience together. Only that JSDP network can be viable. Somehow engine is there is engine like Madanji, but we need fuel. Without fuel, any vehicle cannot run. Where will fuel will come? This will be a small incentive. This can be a small type of interaction session. This can be a small type of event. On the basis of that, we can go together. So I have nothing to share on the JSDP. It is very wonderful, very comprehensive. And the need for now, this is the soldier on our network partner, that how we can utilize. We have to be proactive. We have to be responsive, not reactive. How we can respond, this is up to ourselves. And we can assure you, Dr. Nityananda ji and Pankaj Madan ji, your great efforts will not go into vain. We will try our level. We will not leave any stone unturned, because India is India, a great nation. If India will impact sustainable development goal, only then sustainable development goals can be achieved. If India will be on the back foot, no one nation can substitute India. No one nation. So we are very proud, and we have to engage ourselves. We have to involve ourselves. We have to energize ourselves. Only then we can implement such a great module. Nityananda ji, thank you so much. Madan ji, one last request from you, sir. Please involve all the organizations, whatever you can say, so that after 10 years, our coming generation can say that this was the initiative of Pankaj Madan ji, and JSDP is now vibrant. And all stakeholders. Stakeholder engagement is not important. Stakeholders management is also important. We are very key stakeholders of the JSDP network, and somehow we are feeling, this is my personal belief, we have do so many things, but somehow why we are not doing so many things. So this is my concern. Please take the lead, and we are here to support. We are here to contribute. Whatever we will do, it will be do for not only for the nation, for the very motherland. So motherland earth. हम लोग धरती माँ की सेवा में जो कर सकते हैं करने को तत्पर हैं. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well. You know, number one, you just don't need to support it or help for it, but you need to take the lead. And I am a very small person. It is the JSDP initiative, not my initiative. I only get my ideas from the big pool of idea bank that JSDP is, you know. So don't give me credit for something that I don't deserve. But anyway, let's move to the next person. Krupi.
So you have to unmute, sir. Vijay.
Mr. Mayank?
Yes.
You have to unmute yourself and yeah.
Good morning all, and thank you for giving me opportunity. I first of all would like to begin with thanking and congratulating Dr. Nityananda for working so hard on 5 selected chosen SDGs. The report is quite exhaustive and requires time to actually read, assimilate, and comprehend it fully. But you know, the cursory reading that I could do, I would like to focus on one thing, that is education. And here I have a point to make. When we talk about education, the discussion, Nityananda ji, you may like to respond to this, huh? Because we are bound by the targets, and the targets, they appear to be getting restricted to the stakeholders of formal education, be it primary, be it secondary. Now, for countries like India, should we be focusing only on that, or should our focus go beyond those who could not participate in a primary education program or secondary education program? That is point one. Say adult education or something like that. Second is, education should be seen in its universal concept. There is a universality in the very word of education. And therefore, and since education, learning is so very dynamic, certain issues keep coming. Now, presuming that on the strength or on the capital of learning that an individual gets either in primary or secondary or post-secondary, she would be in a position to absorb every possible learning needed post-degree is probably little over ambitious, over optimistic assumption. And therefore, a need is there, according to me, to include one target segment in this where we talk about those who are left out by one way or other. Because of any reason, there could be left outs, and the target should include those left outs also. That is number one. And number two, quality education beyond curricula. Of curricula means primary, secondary, post-secondary, whatever, but they are bound. When we talk about quality, it is not syllabus-centric education, but life-centric education. And that aspect also should come in when we address the issue of education, particularly in terms of sustainable development. So this formal education, which is essentially aiming at self-employment and economic activities per se, development education, education linking between education and development somehow gets distorted or skewed. And that may be addressed by adding some segments where we may think of universal education, quality education, life-centric education, or education for the left out. Otherwise, I welcome the efforts made by you, Dr. Nityananda. It's a great work done. It's a great support to all of us. And I join Uday Shankar in, Dr. Uday Singh in complimenting and acknowledging the efforts that CAS JSDP made under the leadership of Dr. Madan. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mayanji. Pankaj, you would like to add anything?
No, carry on.
Okay, Manda Mayanji would like to add. Mayanji is there? Yes, morning, Manda Mayanji. Please, your thoughts on the report.
Good morning. Mayank Bhai has told almost all the things, but unfortunately, let me beg your pardon that I have not gone through the report yet. And so I'm not in a position to comment upon that. But one thing that I would like to draw attention to, we should look at the redefining our targets within the SDG goals, because pandemic has changed so many things, and almost our all landscapes have changed. So it needs to have a review on the targets that has been decided under each SDG. Secondly, the institutional build-up is one another aspect which we need to add to these 5 important aspects as far as implementation of the trainings are needed. And both our institutions are ready to take up the training and whatever support we need to give it. Dr. Nityananda, very much I appreciate your efforts and congratulations. And Madanji, on behalf of all KS, we give credit to you. It is your encouragement and your active support. This JSDP is continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayanji. Now, may I request Gandhidas, sir, can you share your insights, please, on the report?
I honestly went little, I won't say fast reading, but because since I have been with these SDG aspects for ever since in the Nordic countries participated in the various discussions, So I went through it, says simply properly outlined. What I felt, honestly, quickly, I'll make only 3 points. This is done, all the guidelines and the indicators for normal situations. And there is application at the state level or at the local level, requires a lot of fine-tuning at our point. But this must be also brought in the consciously in the report that fine-tuning or application requires the local level application strategies. This is number 1. Number 2, I will only concentrate on education and health. Integrating with NEP, where we are very much, I'm involved very much in number of day in and day out. The NEP, New Education Policy, was first approved. Now it is going for discussion all over India. That is the reality. It's a backward analysis, not forward analysis. Therefore, there's a lot of issues are coming up by the teachers, by the student, by the universities. Even tomorrow, we have university-sponsored discussion on this. But at the elementary school level, there's multi-exit, multi-entry, multilateral entry-exit points. So how it will be visualized in the new context, nobody has a very clear picture. That's my first point. Therefore, both because of pandemic, as well as new education policy plus online classes, there is a multilateral convergence taking place with our knowledge or without our knowledge. Because society has come forward, government has pushed. So you find there is a lot of online classes now advertised in the newspaper. And parents are moving from formal education to online classes, which are assured qualities and all that. All that I'm only saying is just both in the health sector and in education, there is multilateral agencies have come up in the last 2 years, and tremendous amount of convergence of this at the local level has to be carried out. This is my point. Climate, yes, we are there. We have been working in the climate. My basic problem is always in India, activism. When we get into little more climate work, we are branded as activist. And that attracts not state power, I won't say, a kind of a political power in the state where this beyond a limit, our climate actions are very, very, very difficult for us. Right now, yesterday we came from a mountains area where bordering Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. We want huge lakes are there. We want to have a multi-cultivation plants which can conserve water. These are all mountain lakes, small lakes. But the procedures and the problem they are creating for us, though it is free from our side, from 2 agencies are collaborating, it's so difficult even to get the permission from the government and the forest department and so many things. These are the real issues. I would like to help us in this climate action. What are the government agencies' rules that support us, or we need to look at that carefully before we launch? My last point is very important for costs. We find whenever some mission, foreign mission people come to various state governments, they drop number of things. Even yesterday, a British High Commissioner was here in Bangalore. So if the German missions, whenever they visit the states across, they can drop that CAS is doing this as part of that. We have one NGO or somebody, you can take a look at it. We are not asking you to recommend, but some of these initiatives in your business promotional talks also need to be dropped so that it gives a little more strength to us to reach out. Thank you.
And on the recommendation where we will promote this during our thoughts on that.
My
we
thoughts
have to
are,
deliberate on this actually.
Actually, you know, the thing is, we are just beginning with this. We will chart a course. We'll see how it goes. But on the other hand, we don't want a flood of non-serious NGOs coming to us. That's one thing. And we will do it through Vani, as we discussed it in the earlier inception stage of this idea, that this manual we promote through Vani and to other network. But the JSDP will be the implementing network to begin with. So it's one small step at a time. I know it's a laborious, time-consuming thing, but that is the reality.
Thank you, Pankaj. Subrataji, look forward to your views, sir. Subrataji. Are you able to hear me? You have to unmute yourself, Subrataji. Okay, if you're not ready, maybe I request Naveen. Naveen would like to chip in with your thoughts on the report.
Yeah.
Naveen?
Good morning to all, and thank you very much. First of all, I also would like to compliment Dr. Nityanand for such an exhaustive report. I have gone through that because it is not directly my prerogative, but still, because we have, as Pankaj knows, we have two foundations in the chamber: Rural Development Foundation as with the Family Welfare Foundation, through which we do a lot of activities. And just to apprise that the activities which have been done on the health sector, healthcare sector, and a lot of check dams have been made. So those are the things which are done by that activity. Family welfare, women empowerment, a lot of things are happening. Hygiene sector, we are doing a lot of things in that. Oxygen plants, we have tried to do. Healthcare infrastructure development is through that foundation we have been trying to do. And as a chamber, we have been trying to do activities like skill development. A lot of training programs have been done for enhancing the skill. Training for the trainers we have just started, which we have been doing in different sectors, state levels. We have started doing that part. Water and sanitation also, we have started doing awareness programs on that part. And on the climate, we have been doing, I don't know whether that is relevant mentioning, but I would like to mention that we are doing a International Climate Summit during 3rd of September, which is a virtual event, though we were planning a physical, but because of the current scenario, it is a virtual, which will be inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister of India. And we are expecting around more than 10,000 people to join globally on that. So that is something on the climate change summit, which is being talked about, where we are mainly talking about the powering India's hydrogen ecosystem. So that is what is being planned in that. And as PhD, we are committed to work very closely with the CAS and the JSDP, whatever best we can do in that. So this is what my submission would be in this.
Great, sir. We'll move on to Subrataji. Able to hear me? Yeah, you can unmute and then share your insights, sir. Subrata.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Please go ahead.
Okay. I have gone through the report, glanced through it, and it's very exhaustive and comprehensive report. But our being a journalism training institute, it's not, we are not directly, related to it, but this definitely comes as a very valuable document for us, because the areas covered, the SDGs which have been selected, like education, clean water, sanitation, gender issues, climate, all these constitute very important areas as far as journalism is concerned. And this will really be a very valuable document for us to go through, and also teach this to our students. Like, this will help us as a basic document to, gather knowledge on these issues. Now, the second thing, the engagement aspect, which has been mentioned in the report. In that aspect also, as journalists, we engage ourselves with different level of stakeholders at the grassroots level, at the block, at the district level, and then finally at the policy making body level. So in that respect also, it's a very valuable document for us as far as, the structure is concerned and the stakeholders are concerned. we do interact and we engage with these people every day on a day-to-day basis. So from that aspect also, it is also very important. Now, the most important aspect, which I think, is relevant for us in this report is the watchdog role of the media. Now, this report mentions about, watchdog bodies and, the aspect of scrutinizing, how schemes are being, implemented, the different bodies which are, interacting with people and implementing different projects. So as a watchdog body also, the role of media comes in and this report becomes relevant to us. Only one thing I like to mention, like, Nityananda ji has mentioned about this while discussing, girls' education, child education, the scheme about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. This scheme he has mentioned. I think Nityananda ji must be aware about the West Bengal scheme, which is called Kanyashri. It has been awarded by the UNESCO, and it's a massive scheme, much bigger than the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme. I think the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme, it allots only about 100 crore rupees for the entire country, while the West Bengal government is spending over, I think, 1,500 crore on this scheme of Kanyashri, which ensures that the girl child, they continue their education up to the age of 18 and beyond without getting married. So it has got double objective. One is to, continue the education for girl child and at the same time ensure that they don't get married at an early age. And there are, direct financial benefit for continuing education by the girl child under this scheme. So it's a very important scheme. Right now, there are, I think, more than 2 crore 35 lakh, beneficiaries under this scheme. Girl students of the state who are enrolled in this scheme, and they get some financial benefit. And I think Mr. Nityananda ji can take a look on this Kanyashri scheme. And finally, this Sonagachi scheme, he has mentioned regarding the sex workers. It's one of the biggest sex workers colony in India. And in terms of my work, I had to visit once during this pandemic. And I was just astonished to see, even this colony has become deserted. There are no sex workers now, almost nil. I mean, the trade has become to a standstill. And I think, this needs to be updated, the scheme which he has mentioned about this Sonagachi model. I think there is scope for, updating the data on that. It's a precarious situation, I can tell you. So these are the things, these are my observations in short. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Subrataji. Now I request Kamlesh, Lokesha, anyone would like to, since you are there on the line, would like to share your thoughts? Kamlesh ji, कुछ आपकी तरफ से बोलना है? No? Okay. Lokesh ji, Ayodi, since you are there, you can always share your thoughts. Okay. Lokesh ji. So now, Pankaj, all yours.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, but I must confess that I had a very murderous week coming back from leave. And so I entrusted the task to my two valued colleagues, Simran, and I don't know whether you guys have met Elias or not. Elias is a German who is working with us now since 3-4 months. And he's really become an asset in this short span of time and of very good intellect and so on as a Simran. So they both of them went through the manual. And I spoke to them this morning, and they have their own take on it. And it's after these two have spoken, I will come in. But let's Simran go first.
Thank you, sir. So at the outset, I would like to convey our compliments to Dr. Nityananda ji for the comprehensive report, which gave us insight into various aspects of SDG and especially the role of NGOs, because that is important, how this manual will be helpful. So I had certain observations and certain comments, which are being divided into two aspects. One is contextual and content-wise, and the other, I know you mentioned that formatting will be done later, but just as suggestions, maybe you could incorporate file formatting. So firstly, coming to the education sector, while everyone mentioned about the education chapter, I would say it was one of the very good chapters that I have went through in the report, because it explained quite well what can the NGOs do: capacity building, advocacy, monitoring, etc. The role of NGO basically. Then the possible interventions of NGOs explained in a visual manner. I think that is very helpful when you explain with those graphics. That gives a very nice impact. So I think that was again helpful. The success stories of NGOs, and that relates to the international best practices, while you mentioned the national and international. So that was quite helpful in attaining an insight as to how they are doing, how we can learn from them. And I think that should be done for other chapters too, with regards to health, with regards to water and sanitation. If we could get international best practices, I mean, it was mentioned in the education sector, but if we get it for the other chapters, that would be helpful. Then you quite mentioned about the statistics giving the insights into programs and schemes. One useful aspect will be, we were given, I mean, the report mentioned abbreviations, quite abbreviations which did not have full form. So I had to Google certain aspects. It would be good if you mentioned the abbreviations. And towards the end, we could perhaps have a dictionary kind of, or something like
bibliography.
Exactly, bibliography, as well as the last part where in an alphabetical order, you give the abbreviations with the full form so that we can go back to that again. Then the case studies were fetched in the health sector, in the health chapter, where in the footnotes it was mentioned that the authors interviewed this person from Assam and how the health thing happened. So case studies are important, but I think more insights into the case study should be delved in. Then you had mentioned one of the chapters, I don't remember the chapter, but that was page number 65, where you mentioned about the organization Save the Children. It would be helpful for the NGOs if you could fetch the contact details. Why I'm saying this, because the NGOs can later learn from their practices to what they are doing. For example, what Save the Children programs are, or maybe the website link or something they can click on and get an insight into these organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Then the gender chapter, I think that the corona crisis has hit different sectors differently, and it has been noticed that the pandemic is not gender neutral. And as a result of which, it has opened a Pandora box in gender roles, thus deteriorating the gender equation even further. I think this aspect should be noted. You did mention about it as the unpaid work in the gender chapter, but perhaps with the corona thing, in every chapter, like the former speakers are, the directors mentioned that you could bring in the corona view, the pandemic view in the education sector, the health sector. Similarly, the gender chapter as well, that would be helpful. And then coming to the formatting part, which would be done later, it could be made visually attractive by using boxes and different graphics. It would be better if we use one kind of English, for example, program with GRAM or GRAMME, because I noticed the both of them.
So either UK or US.
Exactly. And we could use alternatives for achieve SDGs. So the point achieve could be
synonyms.
Exactly. Full forms regarding abbreviations I mentioned. Capitalization is another thing that should be considered. Uniformity should be maintained when it comes to the formats of the dates. Are we writing 3rd August or 0308 something? And towards the end of, again, we can have this bibliography kind of a thing. And the last, we do have this in the very introduction chapter, the role of NGOs. And every chapter also has the role of NGOs. So maybe in the introductory part, we can have role of NGOs in general, and then towards in each chapter, just very specific, because there are some certain repetitions which could be avoided. So these were my insights. Thank you so much. And otherwise, I would say it was really comprehensive, and I was really impressed. And there were things that I learned with regards to statistics and with regards to the new observations. So thank you so much for that comprehensive report.
Okay, thank you, Simran. Elias?
Yes, first of all, it's nice to meet everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome. And I have to say, as a foreigner also, the perspective that this report was giving me was a great one. I learned a lot of things through this report, and it was really comprehensive. So what I think, content-wise, I think the previous speakers already kind of wrapped it up quite nicely. But what me and Simran did particularly was looking at the grammar as well. So we suggested various changes there just to make it more better comprehensible and more readable also. And these changes, we put them in the hard copy, and I would request maybe if we could send these changes, and if you could have a look on it. So moreover, maybe what I would have changed a little bit is at the end, it was kind of, the last chapter was kind of a conclusion, which took over again the things that were said before. Maybe I would have shortened that one a little bit. But all the changes that I suggested and that Simran suggested are in the hard copy. So I would suggest if you might have a look on it, and yeah, we could then talk about it later on.
Okay, so good. Elias, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then let me say, Nitya, that I have also listened to everybody as you have. Nitya had himself said that there will be formative things that are not correct and so on. So it needs copy editing even by confession of Dr. Nityananda. So that is a point. We can, of course, send the manually corrected manuscript by hand to Dr. Nanda's office. That is not a problem. In fact, I will send a rule of law module, collection of modules also, just as an example. Yeah, the way we did it many years back with the Professor Madhava K. Menon. So, but to me, what appears is question 1. This is a training manual, a TOT manual. Does it guide the trainer? That is question number 1. I think it does, because all the JSDP partner did point out that they were quite okay with it, barring few things here and there. Second, pandemic. We all know that pandemic has accelerated change in lives of everybody, whether in all aspects. I mean, you can go to geoeconomic, you can go to the broader aspect of geostrategic, or you can come down to the last minus, the minute federal unit, a person. In everybody's life is changed, so policies also have to be sort of adopt to these changes. So I think, Nityaji, maybe a 10-15 line section in each chapter about effect of pandemic on this thing could be added, but I leave that to you. So next point would be JSDP. How do we integrate this updation and bring it to the JSDP where each partner brings 2 or 3 trainers? So that will be my next point. But before we go there, I would request Nityaji to take over.
Thank you, Pankaj, and thank you all actually for giving those compliments and comments. But before I respond to the comments, let me also thank all of you, because this report is not just by me and only my colleagues. It has benefited from your comments, suggestions all along. So that was very important part of it. To give an example, one important aspect of this report, I think, is that we have looked at interlinkages between SDGs, health and education, education and water, these are very, intricately linked. And this was not really initially designed, and this came because of, comments, suggestions from you. So that was very important. And of course, many of you, sent also filled up questionnaires. So those are very useful. In CSD, apart from me, 8 other colleagues have worked on this report. And of course, outside JSDP, we have also interacted with many stakeholders. So including NITI Aayog and of course, other government officials and many other NGOs. So those were very useful in the process. So, so thanks to all. And let me tell you, the one important challenge that we thought is that we tried to prepare something a bit unique, because if you want academic reports, there are too many, on SDGs. So our idea was not to get an academic report, but, looking at what NGOs are doing and what NGOs can do more. It was a challenge. It was not like, normally, you do with your academic training. So that is the most difficult part. It's not just about academic training. You have learned all your research methodologies and everything, and still you might not be able to address the very objective of this report. So now, as Pankaj also observed, that I see at least there is not hugely adverse comments, so that gives us satisfaction that we have been able to address that objective to a great extent. Okay. One thing probably that some of you have mentioned is probably because, since we looked at SDGs as the anchor, so what are the goals and targets and how India has been doing and not doing, and how India is likely to do, and what NGOs can contribute in the process to get our achievements better. That was the core objective. So maybe somewhere we might have ignored those parts which are very, very specific to India, which even SDGs themselves have not, probably gave attention so much, and that would be the informal education part. Though I see there is adult education and informal education, it's not totally absent, but we of course would look at if something more can be done. But it is not totally absent, that I can assure you. Adult education has been mentioned in the report and in number of places, not just one place. But of course, you are right that SDG focus is more about children's education, not about education of a 50-year-old. But that's a very specific Indian situation. Those who have left behind over the last 30, 40 years, do we leave them or do we also try to take them along? So that should be, of course, Indian education agenda cannot ignore that, So that could be SDG plus agenda that we can think for India, not just SDG, but SDG plus India, which is not a bad idea. Then quality education, yes, I don't know if you have missed somewhere or we have missed somewhere, but that was of course part of it. And if you have, give attention to the RT Act, which some of you have mentioned, it also talks about quality education. It is not about, you keep on passing every year, but quality is a very contested concept, that also has to be kept in mind. Quality is not about, you have learned ABCD, you have learned addition, subtraction, and that is quality. It's also about, of course, some of you have mentioned, understanding life, understanding society, understanding social interaction. And that's where we as an institution have a slightly negative take on what is happening, which probably is an emergency situation, because online education cannot be a substitute for physical education, offline education, especially for the children. For adult, it is okay, it can be, but for children, online education is simply cannot be a substitute. We're engaging with it because we're in a difficult situation. We're concerned that our children would be left behind, but I am not really that much concerned that they should be really left behind because of 1 year. because everything gives you an education. You know, it's not like education if you are not attending, you know, formal classes, but the issue is whether children are learning otherwise also. You know, it need not be addition, subtraction, it need not be writing skill, reading skill, but also, you know, and that's where, you know, interaction is important. Interaction with other children is important. Interaction with teachers are important, not on online mode, but, you know, face to face. So that's why, you know, and of course, no matter how much we do, we cannot overnight create infrastructure, you know, connectivity, you know, access to internet of every children. So those concerns would be there. Now, we try to deal with that to ensure that if some children are not attending schools, especially girls, whether we start again school next year or even this year, whether they come back to schools or they drop out. You know, that I think to our, you know, to my age of organization, that is a major concern. You know, if they come back, you know, they can easily, you know, kind of make up the gaps that had been created because of absence, but that should not be the case. You know, children have immense power. You know, what we think, you know, 1 year loss, they cannot, you know, compensate. You'd be very astonished to see how they will compensate. They will, but problem is that they have to come back. You know, I think that is, you know, to many of us who are in researching and you know, some understanding about the, you know, development and growth of children, that is the important part. And that's where, you know, what, you know, Subrato Da was saying, you know, Kanyashree would be a kind of a very important part, that especially the girls, they should be back to schools. You know, I think my focus should be there, and I would see whether that has been somehow not been addressed properly, you know. So it is, of course, so sustainable development has to be part of curriculum, that goes without saying, and we see, we'll recheck whether we have missed somehow. But certain things can be, you know, as Simran was saying, there can be repetition. So we have to cross-check with 2 chapters, because sometimes it becomes difficult, like sustainable development part of curriculum, whether we put that in climate chapter or put in education you know, chapter. You know, maybe we can try to do some cross-differencing, but, you know, we can mention, but that also have to see. But it has to be there. You know, I will check. If it has been missed, we will be including that, because life-centric education, lifelong education, sustainable development, quality education, leave no one behind. These are the very basic, you know, key, you know, kind of buzzwords that we are, you know, talking these days. So we cannot ignore them. So we will, of course, definitely will try to look at them. Okay. Local level applicant strategy, I think we tried that, but we'll see, you know, and if you have more very specific cases, if you can send us more, even we can include that, that would be more helpful. But I will say on our part also whether we can give it more attention. NEP, National New Education Policy, you know, that's a kind of, you know, as Gandhiji also mentioned, that even experts are not really sure how, you know, this is going to, you know, impact our education system. So though we understand that this has to be included and mentioned and analyzed to some extent, I think we cannot give any definitive conclusions. You know, this is how it is going to be. You know, that I think it would be an injustice if we do that. You know, don't force us to do that, because, you know, as I said, nobody really knows. You know, I mean, this policy is, some people are very favorable, some people have criticized very heavily. Some people are saying it will be wonderful, you know, exit and come back, you know, that kind of thing. But there are many other elements where people have huge concerns. We have our own document that we have prepared, our own comments on that, but that would be, some people may call it bias, some people call it not, but that's our perspective. So it is a very controversial. So we will mention, but let's, do not push too hard on this, because then that would be a very kind of, something that we would not know much and you are dealing with. That's not fair. Okay, climate actions, you have brought a very, very complex, very ticklish issue. I understand that even within government, the Minister of Industry will be at loggerheads with Minister of Environment. I said, why are you saying that? You said, why are you doing that? It is happening. Especially in the developing countries, it's a very, very complex, people have different interests, so some interest group would not like you to make noises, but then you have to make noises. But I would say over the last 10 years, I have seen some positive changes, at least, that people are more understanding the Bombay rains, what is happening in Bengal, everybody is now recognizing that the frequency of cyclones have gone up over the last few years. Earlier it would be only 1 or 2, now it is 5 or 6 in a year, So people are understanding. So more people understand, more they will resist less, when you are talking about this. But one thing I wanted to focus, whether you did not get the message, that climate change is here and is going to stay. No matter what we do, we are a bit late. That does not mean that we are late so we don't act. We have to act and we have to act faster. But what we also have to focus more as NGOs to develop resilience capabilities, so adaptation capabilities. And here I think you will face less of resistance compared to when you talk about mitigation. Because the conflict more comes when you're talking about mitigation. And if you try to focus areas where mitigation and adaptation are addressed simultaneously, I think your acceptance for mitigation would be also important. So the entry point of, all climate strategies is not about, I know this best, but, you are wrong, do it, but also understanding their concern and then engage more carefully. And then first, the stakeholders to recognize that it is a problem, but if we push it too hard without giving them the opportunity to understand, if we come from a high moral ground and we say that we are right, you are wrong, then of course you will get resistance. So this is something that we have to do very carefully and very tactfully. But, winning the confidence, understanding their concerns, sometimes, it's a very, very bread and butter livelihood issues for some of the farmers. And we have seen in the case of crop burning, sitting in Delhi would be kind of thinking why those guys are burning crop and making our life miserable. We can't even breathe in our cities. But then if we don't understand, then of course we will think that way. But if you go and if you understand their concerns and how, some multi-stakeholder approach is needed. It's not about, just, pushing down their throat that you have to do it. You cannot do it. This is something will not work in a country, complex country, a democratic country. It's not China, so we have to keep that in mind. So, and politicians have to keep votes in mind. So they often take a call which might be kind of, more to keep in popular sentiments in mind. So NGO's role is there to create a popular sentiments in favor of climate action, So that's why the awareness advocacy part is important, that it should come from below, if it comes from above, you resist it more. Okay, PhD, yes, you have done some, as I hear, if you give me a couple of paragraphs on what you are doing, you can include them as some case study. So that would be important. So that would be good if you give us some better structured information about what you are doing. Shibratuda, yes, fine. You know, I understand that Sonagachi is, you know, it was more from health perspective, but now it has become a livelihood because pandemic has got customers out of the market. So health concerns remain, and so we have to probably tweak a bit, and we'll see how we can update the most recent information. And Kannasri, of course, we'll put as a case study. You know, that's very interesting. I will put it as a case study. Simran, yes, abbreviation. Yeah, of course, every report we finally put a list of abbreviation. We have to do it. Repetition, I think somehow we cannot avoid repetition altogether. You know, because in conclusion we do some repetition. You know, that's normal. But also because here, you know, there is one. If you look at the annexure, we have given some agenda, you know, like 1 day agenda, 2 day agenda, where you focus on only one SDG. Now the issue is that suppose somebody wants to organize SDG, you know, a training program only one of the SDGs, then that you know, trainer may avoid reading the whole report. So maybe that those trainers will, you know, read the introduction chapter, the chapter that is of concern to him or her, and the last chapter. You know, so we try to balance that. You know, so you know, if somebody is not interested and doesn't have the kind of even basic understanding, then that person should not be forced to read the entire report. So she should be able to at least do some justice to the training program by looking at the introduction chapter, conclusion chapter, and the chapter that concerns him or her. So keeping that in mind, I think we will retain some repetition, you know, and it's customary that conclusion chapter, you bring it something again as a recapitulation, you know, so some, you know, would be there. And, you know, many report we read, you know, let me tell you, not everybody read the full report. Since you have read full report, you are finding out those repetitions to be more stark and maybe annoying. But those who are not going to read the entire report, the conclusion chapter would be very, very useful. Introduction and conclusion. You know, that's why, you know, you read any book, you know, not about the novels, but you read any book, academic book, will find introduction and conclusion, they will have some repetition because this is designed like that. That we understand that very few people would be as dedicated reader as you. So this you please bear with to some extent. Yes, we will see how more of infographics and some diagrams can be added to look it more attractive. Okay, one again, bull in the China shop is again, you know, difficult to address is pandemic, you know, because remember last year around July, August, everybody was saying, okay, what a wonder Kerala has done. And now see what is happening. What I mean is that the implications, the consequences of pandemic is not yet known to us. We are not out of pandemic. So we are still in not post-pandemic world. You know, even my office is not fully open, you know. We keep it open, but, you know, very low capacity. You know, this is how we are handling. So pandemic, we can, as we understand, we cannot ignore also, it's the facts of life. So we can give only broad trends, but not again definite conclusion that this is how it is going to fall out. You know, because pandemic is yet to, you know, go out of our life. It is going to be there, and we don't yet know how long it will be there. So keeping that in mind, we have to be on the learning grain. We have to be, kind of revising our expectation and our understanding on a daily basis. So we'll give some broad trends that this is happening, but we cannot give you a definite conclusion that this is how it will impact us. So that you have to bear. Okay, JSDP integration, yes, that we have to, I'm looking forward to the meeting. Hopefully, third week will not come before that, and we'll be able to meet all of you physically. And when we physically meet, online one meeting for a couple of hours, of course, it doesn't give you enough opportunity to integrate. But if we have at least 2 full days of interaction, of course, you will get better opportunity to integrate. With that, I am not sure I have addressed all your concern, but
I think you have. I think you have, Nitya. But let me come here to the last point that you made. Interaction over 2 days. Yeah. So you would definitely, so far so good. I think we all agree that the physical JSDP is happening.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you see that? Would you like? We would definitely like you to be there, and maybe 1 or 2 of your colleagues.
Exactly. This is what I was proposing, because as I said, I cannot get the whole team, but maybe I would say substantive chapters are 5, so maybe at least 2 or 3 more colleagues would be useful.
Fine, we will support you there.
Yeah,
they'll come in as they will come in as host persons.
Yeah, one important advantage of that will be, then they will able to interact with other JSDP directors one-to-one basis.
Correct.
So if I attend alone, I will have only 48 hours, and we have to exclude sleeping and informal chatting. And I understand Pankaj will not invite to his room this time because of pandemic, but
no, I will. I will. Everybody should be having 2 injections, and that's it.
Okay.
So but yeah.
So if we have more people, they will be able to interact with more people. So
okay.
That's the advantage we'll have.
So then please stay on. Do you have some more time to stay on in the meeting? We will just discuss the program then.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So yeah. We have indeed got the program from Manda Ben and Magbai, and so maybe somebody could share it on the screen and we can discuss it very quickly. But that is if you all agree that the physical JSDP is on. From my side, it's on. Ruby, muted.
Don't underestimate the virus, but with that caveat, okay, that's fine.
So good. Maybe we could put this on the screen, the program, and start a discussion on that.
Okay, I will have to take it from a mail and put it on screen share. Give me 2
please.
minutes. And just put it on the screen share, please. Sundar? Just give me 2 minutes. Meanwhile, you can discuss on the...
Nitya, the way the things are planned by our valued partners from Ahmedabad is that each day has 4 sessions, out of which the last session is always about this SDGs manual. Is that okay with you?
Yes, fine. That's fine.
But of course, we would expect your inputs for the other sessions too, because they are about pandemic and so on. And your knowledge is really helpful there. So let's just get the program on the screen and then we will quickly discuss this. In the meanwhile, let's do a quick health round. Rupi, all fine at your end at MMA?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
2 jabs done, so we are confident things will move on.
So
we're looking forward to a Theri event next weekend.
Yeah. Just for everybody's information, we are going. We are doing a conference physically, or rather on a hybrid mode in Chennai, and Grupi and MMA are a collaborative partner there, but the other partners being FICCI, the National Maritime Foundation, and TERI. So we are all there, and then we also plan to have a conclave on China on the last day in the evening as a separate event. So, Subrata-ji, all well at your end with you and your students? Unmute yourself, please.
Yes, sir, things are improving here in Bengal, but schools, colleges, universities, they are still closed. They are not opening. And I don't see, those opening, before October. So admission and enrollment is a bit slow right now. We have facility for online application and online, admission. But students still seem to be a bit worried, and their guardians are a bit panicked. Still now they are waiting for how things pan out in September about this third wave.
And the last batch graduated?
Yeah, last batch graduated, and they have done their internship, and they have been invited for another month of internship if they are willing.
Yeah, that's good.
Because that is the situation.
I'm awaiting a reply from your end regarding Editors Conclave.
I know, sir.
Keep it in mind. That is it.
Yeah,
that is
sure.
And okay, Udayji, how's VYK doing? And everything okay with your team?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everything is fine. By the grace of God and blessing of you people, everything is going on smoothly. And still, our center is as a COVID isolation center for the government, and they are using the space. However, there is no patient right now. There is no any person, but administration has already occupied it because they are very much concerned about the third wave and so many other things. So still in their occupancy. And apart from those, we are trying our level best to do the online training program, all types of activities, and team have been engaged in several activities. So everything is
I'm
fine.
missing Ajit. He's okay?
Yeah. He is okay.
He's your partner in crime all the time. Today is not here.
Yeah.
Shilpa ji, all well at your end?
Yeah, all good. Just that there was a statement from Honorable Prime Minister yesterday that all the states should impose lockdown again for 1 month because of the festive season, especially in Maharashtra, where we have this Ganesha festival.
That is
huge,
big.
Huge
That is
gatherings
huge.
and all. So
that's like Durga Puja in Calcutta.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
So 19th August to 19th September, they are asking for the lockdown. So if that happens, then my team and myself won't be able to travel. So that's let's see. I mean, keep our fingers crossed, but everything will go fine. But this was a statement yesterday by Modi ji.
Yeah, but you know what I have seen is the lockdown announcements are more for psychological effects. On ground, there is simply no lockdown. People are traveling on train. If they wanted a serious lockdown, they'll stop the trains. They can't do that. They will not do that.
Yeah.
Or they will stop the flights. If they do that, then it's a serious lockdown.
It's
a serious lockdown. Huh?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
So I'm optimistic there. Gandhi Dosi, Bangalore. Yes. Bangalore is in vicinity to Kerala.
Yeah. Lokesh.
Yeah, thanks.
Tell us, Lokesh, how are things?
Yeah, everything is fine, sir, but I'm not, video is not coming.
That's all right. We can hear you.
Yeah, the staff are doing well.
Excellent.
The program is going on smoothly, sir. No problem.
Very good. Very good. Mayank bhai, aap kaise hain? Wahan ki team kaisi hai?
Everybody is fine and in good health. The organizations have almost resumed their work, and the pandemic situation in Gujarat is to a very great extent relieving.
Okay, excellent.
And so we hope for the best.
Okay, thank you very much for sending in the program just in time. So we will just get it on the screen after Naveen has informed us about PhD status. Naveen? Naveen seems to be not listening, just logged in. So I have not spoken to Venkat for a long time. Group Captain Venkat?
Yes, sir.
How
Good
are
afternoon,
you?
sir. Great, sir. Great. Nice hearing to all of you. And
Yes.
yeah, we're all doing well, sir. Group Cap Vijay is leading us well. And all of us are safe and sound, going ahead with our activities. Looking forward to the TEDI conference and the China seminar as well.
All right, all right. And the JSDP thereafter.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, groupie, are we ready?
Yeah. Are you ready? Just come on the screen, please. I told him to, yeah.
Yeah.
Each one we put separate. First we show day one, then we can move to the next one.
Nitya, please look at it. Huh?
Should I read?
Sorry?
Should I read, or I think that is...
No, I mean, let's start the discussion on it. So we have the title, Corona Pandemic and SDGs, Impact, Responses and Prospects. I think that's a very concurrent topic. And really the right topic for the moment. Every day we have sessions lasting 5 hours net, each session being of 1 hour, 15 minutes. So, and yeah, way forward for better human life. That is there a former inaugural or some kind of a thing like that?
Inaugural is there.
No, that we proposed the inaugural on the previous eve of the commencement of the JSDP.
Okay, keynote address on the eve, yes.
Yeah, 0 day.
So you don't mention dates here, right?
Yeah, we have not
we have not mentioned date, but we have said day 1, day 2, and so the keynote would be on inauguration 17. And keynote will be on day 0 evening.
Right.
And then, so 17th, 18th, 19th.
So the arrival is on 16th, right?
17th.
17th is the arrival, Friday. So 17th arrival during the day, and in the evening we start. Yeah. And then next morning, 18th, we have this day 1.
Day 1,
yeah.
That's 0.
And then we go to day 2. Can you go to day 2?
Yeah, day 2. That is
new lessons.
Day 2 also, no problem.
Yeah. This session 2 on day 2, pandemic aggravating the concerns of quality of what? Education.
Quality education.
Okay, education is gone there, right? I think it's all covered under the manual or the day 2 also. And day 3?
Day 3, there is commentary on institutional responses.
Yeah. So, Nitya, I think you and your team have a role to play here, together with some other speakers.
Yeah.
So, Mayankji, what is the format that you are following for each of the panel?
So, every day, I mean, for both the days, there are 3 panel discussions suggested, day 1, day 2, and day 3. And
so basically we have 4 panels on each day.
4 sessions.
No. 4 sessions.
4 sessions, right. One of them will always be with the team of CSD.
And 1 would be panel always.
Yeah.
And 2 would be in lecture form.
Okay. So panel will typically have 3 organizational heads, directors as there, or how is it?
Oh, no. Subject experts.
So domain experts.
1 could be organizational head.
So moderation. Moderation is by...
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But 1 could be from Dr. Nityananda's team.
Yes, I would say that. And the other would be domain experts. Whom are you planning?
The
breakaway sessions that
we in our mind as yet.
Okay.
we may need Dr. Nityananda's support and your support there.
We may invite some of the people from Gujarat. And then
you see, the time is time left is not too much. We need to have a concrete.
No, we can decide this within a week's time.
Once we agree with this schedule, then we
will decide within a week's time. It won't take long.
But the last session on each day would always be that is, there are 3 sessions on the manual and your trainer. So that in any case exclusively belong to Dr. Nitya's team, right?
Yeah,
correct.
Right.
And the other sessions would be also, okay, we can populate one panelist always by Dr. Nitya's team, yes. And even one lecture by Dr. Nitya would be good, but maybe that is too much from Dr. Nitya. So not that he's a ocean of knowledge, that's for sure. But he also has his own, let's say, limits of speaking. So, okay. So I think broadly we all agree, right?
Let me have Dr. Nitya's view on this.
Okay, I think it has been designed pretty well, and it covers, those SDGs which are more linked to the pandemic, since pandemic is one important point of discussion here. So please send me the the link, so I have a closer look, and then I can also suggest some experts who can be invited.
Please, that would be a very valuable support.
Yeah.
And we are focusing more on SDGs number 1, 2, 5, 10, 12 on day 1.
Yeah.
And 3, 4, and 8 in day 2, on day 2. That's how we have segregated, focusing on inequality and poverty related SDGs, and focusing on human development related SDGs. And that way we have split these days.
Can we get somebody from Niti Aayog to give the keynote in the inaugural?
Okay, we can invite Sanjukta Samaddar, who is the Niti Aayog head of SDG activities.
That would be good.
No, everyone is requested to suggest some faculties with the field of expertise. Then we can finalize from there.
And we will do it in a hybrid mode,
and
so that people can even join in online if they like.
Yeah. Right.
We get high profile speakers, we do on hybrid mode. A lot of people will prefer to speak, no?
Yeah.
Some expert, of course, we can take online mode. Yeah.
Yes.
Has Dr. Jayati done some work in SDG, Dr. Nityaji?
Jayati, yes, we can invite her online mode. She is in US right now.
She is good on poverty and inequality.
Yes, she is good on poverty and
inequality or employment issues. This first day. Yeah, first day.
But in case she is not able to have another her former colleague from JNU itself. I don't know if you know him. Himanshu. He is relatively young, but he has also done a lot of work on poverty.
And we must have somebody from Bani.
Bani, yeah, we can invite, of course, Harsh Jetli. Sorry, Harsh Kenan.
You see, it's also good for Bani to be present there in a sense that they have to adopt this manual too in the long run. That is the whole idea.
Yeah.
Vani can be invited as a physical presence.
Yes, please.
Who?
Vani.
What I suggest, Pankaj, is that if we agree with this this schedule, then I may request all the JSDP directors and Dr. Nityananda to suggest suitable faculties here.
Yes.
And in a week's time, we may finalize the whole thing.
Yes.
And circulate the the populated schedule.
Yes.
among the partner organizations for their approval.
Okay, let's do one thing. Mayank, just send a mail to all of us, a circular mail, and include, put Dr. Nityananda also in the loop, and request by Wednesday the names with the sessions indicated. Yeah? And by Wednesday, we should have all the names.
Kindly circulate the schedule also.
Yes, along with the schedule.
So the schedule has already been circulated, Gandhi Dosti, but I'll do that again.
And then by Wednesday, everybody should revert to you.
And now schedule with the faculty name and everything.
No, but that
you do
that we need their suggestions.
By then, by the end of the week, then you can populate the schedule and then send it to us.
Now, my request would be because of this various considerations. There are a lot of experts both in Rajasthan and Bombay. I mean, if you can focus on them, it's easy for travel and other things. So the longest people we can suggest, but then it would be difficult. So there are a lot of people in Rajasthan as well as in
Udaipur itself. The foreign former secretary Jagdish, I forget his family name. They have a very popular organization working on grassroots. They also would be working on these things. You can look for them as well.
So if we can confine to the western region, it would be good.
So I think we could talk the whole day long about this, who all could come. I think you send a mail, Mayank Bhai and Mandaben, and then everybody, I request to react very quickly to that.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
We will wait for your suggestions. And in the meantime, we will get in touch with Dr. Nityananda.
Yes.
And Dr. Nityananda, can you please share with me your contact details, including your cell phone?
Okay,
Group captain will send it to you by WhatsApp.
Yes,
don't worry.
Group captain, if you could please share these details, contact details with me.
So that's the report. What you sent is the full details are there. But anyway, I'll send it to you again.
Yeah.
Please.
The report itself, your signature, full detail, numbers, email is all there. But I'll share it again.
Phone number.
He's given mobile number. I'll share it with you.
If he doesn't mind.
Mobile
it's already
there.
there.
More than happy to share.
But then pick up a number, an unknown number.
You will know, you can send some nice WhatsApp messages. Dr. Nityananda is very happy to receive them. I keep sending it to them.
Please. But one small request, Group Captain, that because your data base requires to be corrected. This is probably third time we are requesting. It is the email is the previous email you are using. If you can, it is yuvakvikastrust@gmail.com now. Please make that correction.
Your email ID, sir?
Yes, yuvakvikastrust@gmail.com.
So what I request you, all of you, to please send me your current email ID, updated data.
Also, that is good. Also, that.
I'll compile everything and pass it on to you.
You can WhatsApp it or email it, but just send it to me.
I'll give you a format, just fill it up, your contact number, landline, mobile number, email ID, all that, so that I will compile once for all and share it with mine.
All right.
Easy for communication.
Certainly.
Good. So anything more, or shall we call it a day?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was wonderful being together again.
Thank you, everybody.
And in conclusion, I would say that JSDP goes ahead as a physical event or a hybrid event. And the next steps have been defined. Everybody sends their suggestions to ISCE and Yuvak Vikas Trust. And we have to act very quickly on it. In the meanwhile, the logistics, the hotel and everything will be finalized. And I don't think that there is a need to meet before JSDP, but if you feel like, then we can fix a date right now.
I don't think there is a need.
Yes, well, now we have to handle everything by email. And also there is one more request, just to reiterate once again, that each organization has a chance of being having one director plus 3 staff or trainers, as we call them. For JSDP, and you should start making your bookings and so on. And I think within a couple of weeks, you will get all the details of the hotel where it is being organized. Now?
Pankaj, earlier it was 1+4.
Okay, 1+4.
Yeah, because the people will get chance to
No, it's
learn,
okay.
and this is
Not only that,
event.
it's been a while that people actually got out. So it is 1+4, as you say. And with our school, it's always depending upon the batch of students, but we'll accommodate all. So yes, I say have a wonderful day, stay safe, take care, and see you in Udaipur. But before that, a lot of work needs to be done. All right.
Have a great lunch on our behalf. Have a good lunch.
Last word to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Udayji. 1+4, provided you come physically there, not physically and mentally.
Yes.
Thanks to each one of you, and we are looking forward to a great JSDP. We'll share the minutes and thing as quick as possible. And the database is very important. Otherwise, Mayankji will find it difficult to connect with each one of them. So please share your database and have a great lunch on our behalf. And
special thanks to Nitya.
Yeah.
And we are very hopeful that our veterans, Dr. Mayank Bhai and Manda Benji, both are organizing the event. So this event will be unique in many ways. We are looking forward to join there. There will be lots of fun, lots of learning.
He has always been so liberal and kind using words. So we need to be profusely thanking him.
And one thing openly, Mandaben and Manguhai, we would like to share on behalf of JSDP, all partners are with you. Whatever you need assistance from our side, we people will be highly pleased to contribute. Because this is the teamwork. So if you will call, if we give any assignment, we will be so much delighted. Otherwise, I will be just like a Bharat. Yeah.
Thanks to everybody. Thank you, Dr. Nityananda. As usual, your presence added a lot of value. So look forward to seeing you at Udaipur, and we'll have a great time. I can assure you that.
Dr. Nityananda, we will be getting in touch with you pretty soon. Sure. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks, Nitya.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'll give you a call in the afternoon. We'll discuss on the other one. See you. Bye-bye.